Howdy folks, and welcome to the video. We are talking Pasco probes. So I just want to go through and give you a rundown quickly on how they work, how you attach them, how do you collect information, and we're going to look at the repository of labs that they have already made for you that can hit a lot of outcomes as well. So let's have a look at this. First off, I just went to pasco.com, and when you get there, this is what you'll see. So we just go into resources, and if you scroll down, we see grade level, subject, software files, search phrase, product number, or title. So this is where they keep all of their labs, and there's a lot of really great pre-made labs that have PDF and Word documents, so you can edit them in a Word document if you want to use parts of it. So what I like to look is by product title. So if I have, this is the wireless temperature sensor, I'm going to look that up because I want to see what labs we have for this. So you just type in wireless temperature sensor, and there it is. Boom. So we hit filter. It's going to give me everything that they have that includes one of these. Some of them might use more than one sensor. Physical chemical change. So this one you're using pH, conductivity, and temp to see if a chemical change happened. They had one for the solar eclipse. If you notice, it got really cold. I thought this was a nice one, seasons and temperature. So if we click on it, I'll just do the PDF file. You know, it's a fully made lab. So it gives you like a situation, like why is it hot in the summer and cold in the winter? And then it tells you everything you need, safety procedures, and then it runs through, and all you're doing is putting this on a ball and turning it, using an incandescent light because they're a little hotter, and you're just doing it at different angles and seeing what the difference in the temperature is. So it's a really cool, really quick and easy to do experiment, and you can really explore how our 23 degrees of tilt on the Earth really affects the temperature throughout the year. It has questions, it has a graph for them to work on. So this is a great little resource. If you're doing seasons or anything like that, this is a really cool lab experiment. And they have a lot of them. And so you can use them, or you can come up with your own experiments as well. So all's good. We have a lab to do, but how do we begin actually recording data that we can use in our lab? So we need to hook this up to the computer. So we are going to go check out downloads, and we're going to look at SparkView. SparkView is the software that it uses. Now, there is a computer-based SparkView product that you have to install. You'd have to get a work request to do that. But there's also a web-based one. So if your students are using Chromebooks, this hooks up via Bluetooth, which the Chromebooks can do, and they can use SparkView right in the web browser. So if I click on this, it now launches as a web app. So I have SparkView, and we land here. Now to connect your sensor, you're always going to go to sensor data. So we click on sensor data, and now we are in SparkView. It tells us some of the new features. Okay. So we click on our sensor data, but we're not connected to anything. So we hold down the power button. So we can see there's a little flashing light. That means its Bluetooth is on and it's ready to connect. So we go back in here, and we are going to go to the Bluetooth symbol, and then there we see temperature. So we click on it, we hit pair, and we're good. There it is, we're in. So ignore this for now, I'm just gonna delete the data. We'll get into how to log data afterwards. So you'll have some sensors, this only does temperature. There's other ones that can do several different things. Like the weather one can do like light intensity, barometric pressure, humidity, all those things. They'll all be listed here, and you can choose which ones you want to look at. But since this is a thermometer, it's just temperature. And then we can choose how we want our information displayed. Do we want it as just numbers? Do we want it as a table and a graph, or like the value and a graph? So it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to see what the temp is at any given time, then a number will work. If you want to see the changes over time, then you're going to probably want a table and a graph. So let's do that one. And then to run an experiment, all you have to do is hit start. So we've hit start. It is now collecting data. All right. And then you can see it's going down, but if I squeeze this, all of a sudden the temperature is shooting up. It's a lot warmer. And then if I let go, it should start to cool back down to whatever temperature the room is. I say, like, I just turn on my thermostat and I want to see how hot the heater gets. This can go over 100 degrees. So I stick it in there. I'm not going to touch that because it's 42 degrees. But yeah, it can go over 100 degrees. So if you put it in boiling water, this will be fine. So that's basically as easy as it is to connect to it. It's just through Bluetooth. So we've finished our run. We hit stop. What we can do, if we hit start again, what it does is it starts a new run. So it doesn't delete the old information. It just has a new run going. So you can leave that over time. We can see the temperature dropping from 40. And this is set to run. It's taking a reading every 2 seconds. You can actually change. You could do like several times a second. You could do once every hour if you wanted to. But if you're running a live thing, you're gonna want a quicker sample rate. So this is 2 seconds. So let's say that's enough. We hit stop. Now if you click on run 1, then you can compare the two. And you'll see down here there's a whole bunch of tools that we have. First one is this. It just kind of fills out the screen. So it just made it big enough so you can see the whole curve. Now this button here, this little square with coordinates on it, just gives you an exact value for any point in time. So this one is working on run 2, but we get rid of 1, 2, we can run 2, we can look at just run 1. So we can see like up here at the top we got up to 40 degrees, 41.4. So it gives you the value at a certain point. And the highest was 41.7. So we have our 2 there. This button here with the 2 boxes just shows you at the same point in time what the value is. So at 26 seconds, this was 28.5 and this was 38.5. So it's a good way to compare your 2 graphs. This next one can tell you the slope, the rate of change at any point. So right now, it was changing at 0.7 centigrade per second. And then, so you can see the slope down here was 0.2, but when we stuck it in the heater, now it's 0.7, so it's increased quite a bit. You can do lines of best fits, curve of best fit. You can put text box. So we said heater, like this is when it went in the heater, and then you can move that around. So this is when we put it in the heater. So there's a lot you can add to this. So, and you can get rid of some of this stuff, like if it's becoming too cluttered, you know, you don't have to have everything up there, but there's a lot of cool tools in here that are good. You can just mark all over it, doodle, and then you can take a snapshot or a screenshot of this, and then you can paste it into a Google Doc and go with it. So you'll see down here the period is where we choose how often it's sampling. So if I do 2 minutes, then it's only taking 1 reading every 2 minutes. If I do 2 minutes, it's only taking 1 reading every 2 minutes. But you can go all the way up to 10 samples per second. So we hit OK. We hit start on this run. You can see how many samples it's gathering. It's very precise if you run it at this high frequency. All right, so I've run through with the weather one, but every sensor works the same way. It's just gathering different information. So let's go into a new project, start a new experiment. We don't need to save that. And so we're back at the beginning, and now I want to look at this CO2 sensor. So this will do how much carbon dioxide is in the air. There's even a sleeve that you can put on here that allows it to go in water to do dissolved oxygen in water. Never put this in water unless you have the aquatic sleeve to go on top, or you'll destroy it and it's quite expensive. Let's hook this up. It's the exact same process to hook it up. So I turn it on. So we can see it's on. The lights are flashing. I don't know if the shutter's catching the flashing lights because that's how cameras work. But, so we go into sensor data and we go to Bluetooth. We can see the CO2 there in our Bluetooth settings. We hit pair. Okay, so this one also had log data on it. So we have to delete the data. And now let's just go back to a new experiment. So here we go, we have our CO2 sensor and we can see that we're collecting the CO2 concentration. So now let's go back and we'll just do a digit and a graph, why not? and then we have it in ppm. So we can see the concentration. We can choose periodic. So then we hit start, and now we know what the concentration of CO2 is in this room I am in right now. So you'll probably have to give it some time to kind of level out. But let's see what happens if I breathe on it. So boom, all of a sudden 10,000. Now here's an interesting experiment. Let's see, like, if I hold my breath longer, will it do a higher spike? So it did a much higher spike. So maybe I had more time for cellular respiration to come out in that breath. Anyway, so same exact way. It's like this measured temperature. This measures amount of CO2 in an area. So you can leave it somewhere and see how the levels change over time. All right, so we're gonna stop this. And same deal, you can run more than one run, and then you can compare the two runs. But what happens if I wanna run a longer term experiment and I don't want to have a computer next to it the whole time? That's where remote logging comes in. And then on this one, we have remote logging as an option. So if we click on it, then we're able to choose our CO2 sensor. And what remote logging does is you can then program this to collect data, and then you can leave it. So if you want to leave it overnight to see how the levels of CO2 in your classroom change from a school day to when the school's empty, or if you want to compare, put it in a bottle with a plant and say, like, okay, during the day there's photosynthesis, so it should be low CO2, and at night there's respiration, so there should be higher levels of CO2 with that plant. So there's different experiments you can run. So we choose our sensor, we have it enabled. Now this is where we do the sample rate. So if we do it at 1 per second, it says it can run for 15 hours and 55 minutes. The more time you do between intervals means the battery life lasts longer. Okay, so if we do it at 30 seconds, it's saying it can run for 19 days. But our battery is low, so it wouldn't actually, like on a full charge, it could run for days without another charge. So let's do it at 2 seconds, and then we are going to hit OK. And now our job is done. We can go put this anywhere, and it's now collecting data as we talk. We don't see any of the data on here, but we let it run, so maybe we leave it in a greenhouse overnight to see the changes of levels of CO2 in the greenhouse. I don't know, we'll just see what it does. So it's still collecting data, and then you can run multiple probes. You can remote log this one as well, so you can be tracking the CO2 and the temperature overnight, right? So now, let's say we've run our experiment. Now it's time to upload our data. So we're gonna go back to sensor data, and we're gonna go to connect. And we're gonna hit the power button on this again to stop the remote logging. And you can see as soon as I hit it, CO2 popped up. We're gonna pair. So now it says you're connecting to a sensor with log data. How would you like to proceed? So you can either not connect to it, delete the data on there, or download it. And what it's good to do is delete it after you've downloaded it, so the next time someone uses it, it doesn't pop up again. So I'm gonna download the data, and we can see we're looking at CO2 concentration. I will say one annoying thing, the menu over here, you have to slide it out, and that took me a sec to find. I'm like, where is the menu? So let's look at a table and a graph. So from the moment I started logging, this is what our data looks like. And if you were doing something overnight, I wouldn't sample every 2 seconds. That's a lot of data points. But you could do it every 15 minutes, do a check-in or anything like that. But for the purposes of this, we ran it on 2 seconds. So now we have lots, we can do all the things we were doing before, and we have our data. You can do the average, so show statistics, the minimum, the maximum, the mean. So the mean was 1717 parts per million. One quick note, say I want to run 2 sensors at the same time. I said you can remote log more than one, but you can have more than one sensor connected to your device at the same time. So I'll just show you quickly. I'll connect both the temperature and CO2. So we go to Bluetooth. We can see they're both there, so I'll just pair the first one. It's connected, and then I will pair the second one. And there we go. So then I can, start my experiment, hit my run, and then I get anyway, I know that temperature in this case is not directly linked to CO2 level, but you could run an experiment where you're testing both at the same time. So you can hook up multiple probes at once for your runs and collect all of that data. So anyway, so any Pasco probe you have connects the same way, and then you can check out the labs that they have in their resources, or you can create, you can do lots of creative things. I had a teacher that wanted to, they had two of these, and you should have a kit of 10. Leave one in the greenhouse, leave one outside the greenhouse overnight, and see the difference in temperature level. I will say they are dirt and water resistant, but if you're leaving this out, like this part's totally waterproof, but this part, I would maybe bag it and then just leave it out like that, just so that you're protecting. We wouldn't want any moisture to get inside of the temperature probe. So that's it. That's how to use the Pasco probes. That's how to connect them. That's how to get your data. It's super simple. And then the fun part is figuring out ways that kids can become scientists and use very accurate and professional sensors to take scientific readings. All right, so that's it from me.